Alright, so we are back for part 2 covering Extreme Rules 2022. We last left off talking about Bianca Belair versus Bayley for the Raw Women's Championship in a ladder match, and a bit about the White Rabbit that is going to be revealed later in this night. But we get to Edge versus Finn Balor in an I Quit match that has a ton of build behind it and a lot of matches that have led up to this point.
Yeah, SummerSlam, Clash at the Castle, but even before that, like, this is a group that put Edge out on the very short-term injured list in the summer. And I love the promo package. I love, like, Edge is good at continuity. Like, I will give him that. So I loved in the promo package how he's like, I'm responsible for Judgment Day even existing, so I've got to, if anyone's going to stop him, it's going to be me. I'm like, good. I'm glad we're forgetting that funny, like, chapter of the story that we had to get through to get here.
Yeah, and it was real interesting to see that, like, just how much we've gotten to this point, because of all that's happened. And, it was going to be interesting nonetheless, story-wise, as we've come to expect with Edge. It was going to definitely be, in my eyes, a long one.
Yeah.
As we've come to expect since his return back in 2020. I don't want to make it seem like I thought the match was bad, because there was a lot of good in this match, but at one point I was just kind of like staring at the clock and going, this is giving me flashbacks to Edge versus Orton at WrestleMania 2020.
Yes, especially with how it ended, and Jack, I knew exactly how it was gonna end. For folks listening at home, how do you win an I Quit match? You've got to force your opponent to utter the phrase, I quit. The referee's got a microphone. He's constantly checking on them. Are you going to say the thing that ends the match? And how humiliating is it, Jack, to utter a simple 2-word, 5-letter phrase, right?
Yeah.
Like, what would bring either of these men? And this is Edge we're talking about. He came back from a broken freaking neck. What's going to possess him to quit now?
Yeah.
Finn Balor has been dragged through the mud of this WWE Vince McMahon booking, and here he is on an upward path. He ain't going to quit now, is he?
Yeah, like, I started thinking when I was like, as you're saying this too, I'm like, what would have made Balor tap? Because it's not like there was anything, because, going through a lot of the spots in this match, it was like, for the second time, is it the second time in a row at the Extreme Rules? I believe so. Roman and Balor went into the crowd, right? Last year? I believe it was at this event, right?
You mean when Roman was fighting the demon?
Yeah.
I think so.
Yeah, so for the second year in a row, Balor's out in the crowd fighting his opponent, and he's getting tossed onto and beat on the kickoff show set. You have Edge using a hockey stick on him. There's all sorts of weapons like chairs being used, and it's like nothing's getting either man to tap. Or not tap, but say I quit.
My favorite spot out in the crowd is, like stadium seating have like those tunnels in between the seats. And I think Balor was running at Edge, and he kind of like flapjacks him into that low wall, with like the exit sign.
Yeah.
That was such a good spot.
Yeah, that was pretty good. And then you get the Judgment Day coming to interfere with Damian Priest and Dominic Mysterio coming out, and Edge starts laying out all of those men. Rhea Ripley obviously comes in, and she tricks Edge and gets him handcuffed to the ropes.
Yeah, I feel like this match had a couple of spots it could have ended, and it just like wouldn't end.
Yeah, and it was funny because I saw someone say, what did they say? They said something like, "Oh, let WWE turn PG-14," and Edge would have easily, or they said something like, "Oh, if WWE was PG-14, Edge would have no hesitation going after Rhea Ripley for all the trouble she's caused them so far."
I got you. Yeah. And with that in mind, right? You got Rey Mysterio coming out. We had a long bit about Dominic Mysterio beating up his dad, right? Like a Dominic and Rey Mysterio segment in the middle of a match that doesn't like change the doesn't impact the match.
You do
But
get some really good commentary from Michael Cole on the matter.
what's he say?
He sounded livid as Dominic Mysterio was beating down his own father and like screaming stuff like, that's your own father. How could you even lay hands on your own father? And as someone mentioned, they were like, oh, they might not acknowledge it, but as a sort of like headcanon for the fans, you can see Michael Cole being upset at Dominic Mysterio as simply just, he's upset that he's attacking his own father. But if you want to take it even deeper, he commentated the match where Dominic Mysterio's custody was fought over in a ladder match. So he's obviously feels much closer to the fact of like, he feels more ashamed towards Dominic Mysterio that his dad fought for his custody and yet he's willing to betray him like this.
Yeah, an interesting observation. You certainly think that just as WWE performers are probably closer than, we give them credit for.
Yeah.
So just this long-standing WWE family member, just like, how could you? How could you? So, all right, but you brought it up. Edge can't touch Rhea. So all I'm wondering, Jack, is where's Beth?
My dad had the same sort of thinking. He was like, Beth Phoenix is gonna come out because there's no one else that's gonna lay out Rhea Ripley, especially because Randy Orton's still on the injured list.
Goodness gracious. A man who will happily RKO a woman.
Yeah, but so Beth comes to save her husband, but then she helps her out. She gets at the members of Judgment Day. She frees Edge from the handcuffs, and then you think, it's coming to the end of the match because Edge has Dominic cornered, but then Balor comes in using a piece of the steel chair to, attack Edge and then use it as a submission hold.
Yeah.
And then, Edge got that on Balor. He used the piece of the steel chair for a submission hold on Balor. But then,
Jack, before we get here, he spams the finisher button. And hits him with 3 consecutive spears from 3 different corners of the ring, and you go kind of think, is he gonna spear him to the point where he yells, "I quit"? Like, is his ribs that impacted by a spear? He's like, "Stop! I'm done. I quit." An interesting approach, but then yes, Jack, he puts him in the crossface, the chair part assisted crossface.
Yeah, and just when you think Balor's about to say "I quit," here comes Rhea Ripley, clocking Beth Phoenix with brass knuckles.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and so then when Edge is about to react, that's when Damian Priest and Dominic Mysterio come to hold down Edge. We forgot to mention Rey Mysterio came to the aid, but he gets taken down. And it was funny. My dad goes, "Man, how badly did they beat down Rey Mysterio that he isn't here to help at this point?"
Pretty bad. He's a little guy, and he has trouble with his knees. But, and now Finn Balor gets to spam the finisher button because he goes up, coup de grace, goes up, coup de grace, goes up. I don't know if he hit 3. It's just really funny to watch him, run up like a kid on a slide. Again, boom.
Yeah, and so then, again, what's going to make either of these men say "I quit" until finally they're holding Edge. Beth Phoenix is still laid out, and they bring in the chairs to hit one of Edge's classic moves, the concerto. And you see
on a prone Beth Phoenix.
Yeah, and you see them holding out, and Edge the entire time, he really sells it with especially his eyes. He's looking at them and looking frantically at Beth and stuff like that until finally he says, "I quit." He gives up. He doesn't want them to hurt Beth, especially because you look at it from this aspect. She's not a active competitor on their level. So, she isn't as, if you want to look at it, she isn't as well trained to take, damage as they are because they're wrestling, essentially 365.
Yeah.
And so she quits, or he quits, and that's all there is to the match, right, sir?
Your winner, Finn Balor, who graciously wins and leaves without any commotion. No, wait a minute. Their dastardly heels were dastardly. So Rhea Ripley, who had the chair in hand, goes, "I'm going to do it anyway." Boom. Nails Beth Phoenix with that concerto. This is, Jack, the best this group has looked since they formed.
Yeah, and I have to say that was probably one of the best looking concertos as well, because you even see, I don't know if you caught it, but you even see, I don't know if it was a piece of the chair, I don't know what exactly it was, but something went flying up into the air, and it even looked like, that they really got Beth.
Yeah, so Edge is beside himself. The most heart-wrenching moments are hearing Edge yell, Beth! Beth! Oh, goodness gracious. Before and after it happens. So there you go, Jack. We just booked Survivor Series. It's Judgment Day versus Team Edge in War Games at Survivor Series.
Yeah, there you go. And what's it called? To further add to it, I think the commentary team really sold it well, where especially Michael Cole, he wasn't very he didn't go like comical with it, like screaming at the Judgment Day, calling them all these things. Like he immediately was just like, get some medical attention out here, and then like they really got quiet to really like sell it. They were like, come on, let someone hurry up and get medical attention out here.
Yeah,
they really sold that spot, and like you said, yeah, it's the best that Judgment Day has looked so far. Yeah, so good match. Definitely went a bit long, but has a good amount of spots in it. But of course, the ending is what people enjoyed the most and are remembering it by. But we move on to our main event. Or were you gonna say something, sir?
No, we got one more match, but I did want to say this, Jack. Before we go on to the main event of the evening, can we talk for a moment about the White Rabbit in the room? And that's the fact that your Universal World Champion and your dual tag team champions are nowhere to be seen. Just what an incredible card that was put together without your top 4 people. It's wild.
Yeah, it's absolutely wild to me, and it was funny because my dad thought Roman was on the card because like, oh, he's fighting Logan Paul. I'm like, no, that's the Saudi event. I was like, no, Roman's not on this card. It's everyone else but Roman.
Yeah, and it seemed like, I certainly had a good time. And so I don't know if you had an inkling as to which match was going to end the night, but so we've got ourselves a fight pit match.
Yes, Matt Riddle versus Seth Rollins with Daniel Cormier, a UFC Hall of Famer, former 2-division UFC champion, as the special guest referee. Kind of a little throwback to the first fight pit match where they had a special guest referee, and that was Kurt Angle.
I'm glad you brought that match up. That was Matt Riddle versus Timothy Thatcher, yes?
Yes.
Because I'm going to compare this one to that.
Yeah. I did tell my dad, he was like, when we were leading up to the match, he was like, how do you feel about it? I was like, I don't know, it feels kind of weird at the choice with Seth Rollins being, I know they were feuding, but like, it's like weird because Rollins obviously knows the fight pit because he's fought it before, and plus he has that like MMA style training. But then you have Rollins, who's like, he's not really had anything close to that. Like I was telling my dad, at least when Timothy Thatcher fought Tommaso Ciampa in the fight pit, it was because Ciampa could match Thatcher's aggressiveness in a way. It wasn't really built as the whole like MMA style fighting that Thatcher and Riddle was built on. So I was like, I don't know, this one seems a bit more awkward because Rollins, especially in his current character, how is he gonna work in the fight pit?
Who fought in the fight pit? Thatcher and who else?
Ciampa.
Was it Ciampa?
Mm-hmm. It was on an episode of NXT.
Oh, look at that. Wait. Oh, and Riddle fights him too, right?
Fights who?
Thatcher.
Yeah, that was the first one.
So there were 2. Thatcher was in both.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. All right, I'm all caught up. Is Riddle the one, or is it Tommaso Ciampa the one where Thatcher loses teeth?
The Riddle match.
Got it. All right, we're all caught up. Daniel Cormier is ready to go. He's a weird, funny guy, and I don't get his existence. But here we go. Perhaps we what you need to consider, Jack, why Seth Rollins in the fight pit is he's done so many and said so many heinous things that we need to kick it up a notch, and we need to allow for more than just wrestling, right?
Yeah.
I think. Jack, what'd you think of the match?
For the most part, I thought it was pretty good. I did like how, Daniel Cormier's sort of involvement was that, he was kind of being fair in the sense of like, I'm not, even though it was a heated matchup, he was still like, I'm going to let you guys go at it because obviously someone has to win by like knockout or submission, but I'm not going to let you guys get out of hand here, and at the same time, it's like Riddle obviously kind of played showed off his babyface sort of characteristics by respecting Cormier, especially coming from the same background where Rollins was a bit more like angered at the fact that he would even try and stop him.
Yeah, that's some good character work. Both people in the same situation reacting in different ways.
Yeah, and then I forgot. You could also apparently, you could also win from the 10 count. Obviously, you don't get up by the 10 count. That counts as knockout, yes. But I did find kind of the design of this fight pit a bit weirder compared to the original. Because as I was telling my dad, I think the original, at the very top, it only had like a railing in a sense around it. It didn't have those full-on walls up above it. And another thing that my dad noticed that sort of kind of took away from the match was the filming of it. Where, I don't know if you noticed it, but they were like having to film through the chain link fence, and my dad was like, I could have sworn in the first match they had a cameraman in there, but they also had like different cameras around to showcase different views. But in that one with Thatcher and Ciampa, we know for sure there was at least one cameraman in the fight pit itself. And I know, you don't want to take away from it all and be like, well, he could get in the way of it, and all that. But like, it did make it difficult at times with the way they were recording.
I hear you. And I know that first one, I think, happened in lockdown, right?
Yeah.
Like with no audience.
Yeah.
And then the second one happened with that little NXT audience.
Yeah.
So here we go. We've got an arena full of people. And I agree, Jack. Like, would I have wanted a cameraman in the ring? Maybe. But that's a whole nother body up in there. It's getting kind of crowded.
Yeah. Maybe they could have tried the... Well, actually, no. I think that one, it's a bit harder, especially with how zoomed in it is. But, they've shown a couple of times that they've used the camera on the turnbuckle. But I think another option could have been maybe, like, an aerial view, but just to give different views, like how they did in the first one. Yeah. Because
I noticed, like, this one felt different and worse than the Thatcher ones. It probably has to do with, like, the fact that Seth Rollins isn't, like, a fighter. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
This was very much a wrestling match in a cage. Like,
it was basically a cage match.
Catch as catch can. Thatch as thatch can.
Yeah, it was basically like a regular cage match, just they had that platform up at the top.
Mm-hmm.
But we see a couple of, Riddle obviously showing different MMA styles, but like you said, Rollins was basically just doing sort of his normal moveset, super kicks, the buckle bomb into the very top part.
Yep.
The stomps, obviously, where we see Riddle fall off the top, I believe it was. Rollins? One of them.
Rollins, I think, rolled off, right?
Yeah, because Riddle
fell a devastating 8 feet or 6 feet.
And then we see Rollins we see Riddle perform a dive off the top, and it was funny that the commentary team brought it up, but they were like, "Oh, usually we'd see him perform his floating bro," and it was like, "Yeah, why would you bring that up though? Because now you're making people think of how the spot could have been better."
You mean other than like a senton?
Yeah, but so then he applies his triangle chokehold, and despite Rollins' best efforts to try and get free, he's ultimately forced to tap.
Hey Jack, did you get why Rollins was dressed like Rob Van Dam?
Probably because they were in Philly, but I don't get the reference. I mean, RVD and Riddle may have some similarities, maybe. They're in Philly, ECW, but yeah,
I think it's the Philly ECW, and they're an extreme pay-per-view.
Yeah.
It's an extreme pay-per-view, right? But Jack, I can't tell you how long into this match it took me to put that together. Oh, were extreme in Philadelphia. We saw Paul Heyman in the opening video declare this is where Extreme was born. Ha ha ha.
Yeah. So
this one not as poignant or as clever as his other cosplay efforts.
Yeah, definitely. But the match ends. They lift up the cage. Rollins is slowly walking out. We get Daniel Cormier holding up Riddle's hands as they back away. And we see the trademark signs coming up. Michael Cole closing us out. What a great pay-per-view, sir.
Yes, it was. But wait, we promised the world what we were promised on Saturday, and that was the reveal of the White Rabbit. And Jack, who could have believed it? It was Daniel Cormier. I should have known.
We should have known. But no, as they're backing away, classic takeover style, show that trademark sign, and then boom, the screen goes black. You have Michael Cole going, are we even on air still?
Yeah, he said that in like a very good tone of, annoyance or worry, you know what I mean?
Yeah. And so, it all goes out. And the one thing that I thought was crazy was the absolute speed that as the lights went out, the crowd immediately flips out their phones and turns on their flashlights.
Jack, they've been waiting for this all night.
I wouldn't be.
And I was worried because Rollins has been in this position before. He's in the main event of a non-championship feud. Remember Ziggler in the Intercontinental Championship in that Iron Man match where the audience ruined it with their Royal Rumble countdowns?
Yeah.
The very beginning of this match, they were like, we want the Fiend. We want the Fiend. I was like, don't ruin this one, too. This man has been through enough. So they were ready. They were like, boom, I've kept my phone charged all night for this.
Yeah. And so it's all black. You're wondering what's going on. And then that's when you hear he's got the whole world in his hands being echoed throughout the arena.
A spotlight shines on a corner of the arena to reveal a man dressed as a pig. And then a spotlight crosses the arena to reveal a man dressed like a bunny. And then a spotlight crosses the arena to a different corner to reveal a man dressed like a buzzard in a Hawaiian shirt. And then the spotlight crosses the arena to reveal a woman wearing a skull face, a black veil, and standing next to what, Jack?
2 women's championships.
Ooh. And that was the extent of all the spotlight reveals, right, Jack?
Yeah, pretty much, right? That was the end, and that's our finish. That's, we're told, come back later for White Rabbit review.
No, Jack! We get one more spotlight reveal.
And it's a man standing there in a Fiend mask.
Did you think that was the Fiend, Jack?
No, it definitely didn't. They tried to fool people when you see the hair is braided. There's also the Fiend mask that appeared on the announce table that scares Michael Cole and Corey Graves.
Correct, right? And then what I later read was a humble tribute to Brody Lee, a door washed over with blue and white light.
Yeah, you see that. That was a nice real tribute. Obviously, Brody Lee was very close to Bray Wyatt. You also get the video montage of the destroyed, in a sense, or abandoned Firefly Funhouse, where you saw all those puppets left to essentially rot. You see all the cobwebs, spider webs, and then that door opens, and you see Bray, you don't see who it is. You see a man walk out. We probably already know this, but you see him holding a lantern. He has a different mask on. Finally, he takes off the mask. Bray Wyatt has made his return to the WWE.
The crowd played their role more perfect than I think anyone could have planned, because when he walks out of the doorway, lantern in hand, with a new creepy man face, right? Mask. They all start chanting, "Holy spit! Holy spit!" in massive unison.
Yeah. And the funny part, that was funny to my dad, because he blows out the lantern, the screen goes black, and a new logo flashes. But the funny part to my
Yes.
dad was that the crazy part to me was that it was so loud watching it. They fixed it in post, but it was so loud watching it at the time live that you didn't even hear him say "I'm here" before blowing it out. And then the funny part to my dad was he goes to blow it out and he presses the button a bit too early and it cuts to black and they show the logo.
That's happened to him before with those funny lanterns. Yeah, I definitely caught the missed time, and I also noted I couldn't hear a single word he said. He's talking right into the camera.
Yeah, very good stuff to end the show. Got people to tune in till the very end to see the reveal. What are your thoughts, sir?
I'm excited. You know, he changed his Twitter handle to Wyatt6, and you tally up all of the costumed characters we saw around the arena, and with Wyatt himself, that's 6 members of this stable, and I think we're still gonna be guessing. Who are these people? Are they WWE performers that we know and love behind the masks?
Yeah, that was one thing I was talking to my dad about. I was like, man, I wonder if they do go this route that it's going to be a faction, you know? And as we talked about, you know, when people were thinking about who was the White Rabbit, I saw some absurd takes as to who could be part of this faction. I saw, again, they said he was going to be the White Rabbit. I saw someone saying Mercy the Buzzard would be Baron Corbin because of the Hawaiian shirt.
That's a stretch for sure.
The other one I saw for the Buzzard as well was people saying Grayson Waller down in NXT could be him because it very much looked like him. But my thinking is maybe he was just a stand-in. If it was actually him in there, maybe it was just a stand-in. But people were saying the style looks similar. But the thing to me is the characters don't line up. But at the same time, who knows? They could just do a gimmick change of calling someone up.
It's a lot like Retribution. Remember, we just saw masks and bodies running around. I think Ciampa was in there, right?
Yeah.
I think there were a couple of folks who down the line weren't a part of the final product. But, you know, I think even while Wyatt was here for his first run with the WWE, people were wondering, like, hey, wouldn't it be cool if these puppets came to life and started interfering in his matches? So this real cool this natural progression for his character and those characters.
Yeah, definitely.
Oh, his story writes itself.
Yeah, we've seen people because of the Raw women.
I hate the fan casting that like Liv has got to be the Sister Abigail just because she wears like dark eyeliner. It's got to be Liv, right?
Yeah, I saw people saying it could be Alexa because of the 2 women's championships belt being shown, and she's someone who's won both of those belts.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think of other names. I saw the belief is that Bo Dallas is coming back and could potentially be a part of it since that's his brother.
Maybe the part I'm most excited about, Jack, is this like it happened very quick. We just got all these new faces. But I love this idea that now Bray and the Fiend are separate people.
Yeah.
Jack, they were in the same room at the same time.
Yeah. So it's
you get Bo Dallas to come out and maybe play the Fiend, you know, and now they're not the same. Now he's not doing that like schizophrenic like personality thing.
Yeah. My dad definitely was happy to see him come back with more of a look of his original character. He much preferred that than the Fiend. And I think the reason a lot of people just couldn't get behind the Fiend was because they never really themselves understood what they wanted to do. I have no doubt Bray knew what he wanted to do with it, but like the company didn't know what direction to take it from, because from his debut it was like when you saw him go after Balor and then you saw him targeting Rollins, everyone was like, oh, he's targeting people who have sort of he's had beef with them in the past. You know, they've wronged him in the past, which is why he went after Balor. But then he goes after Rollins, who, yeah, they've had history, but then Rollins is the champion. Why is the Fiend going after the championship, you know? And then they went with The Miz, Daniel Bryan.
Yeah, like what's a character like this' motivation in a wrestling company? That's, I think, one of the hardest things to get over, right? Like, you have a lot of storylines where there's power struggles or takeovers, and it's like in the microcosm of this wrestling company where once you recognize that, it's absurd.
Yeah. So it's like that was kind of the direction they kind of struggled with, and like, funny enough, even very recently on Stone Cold's podcast, Rollins himself even said it, where he was like, he didn't like working with The Fiend, and Rollins went as far as to say, look at everyone he feuded with and tell me who came out of the feud looking better than they went in.
Facts. I heard that, and it's, you can't help but see it's true.
Yeah, and that's why I think my dad was much more glad that it looks like he's going, obviously, more back to his roots, but maybe having a different element to it, obviously, to change it up. And it gives him that opportunity to not have to rely so much on the supernatural aspects of it, but still letting all that play out story-wise,
Yeah. And I think, like, we saw the charred remains of the Firefly Funhouse set. You got to think we're not going to go back to that, are we? Right? I think that's like leaving that in the past. We're moving forward, and this thing is going to be different.
Yeah.
And we didn't get a lot of information on Monday, did we?
No, and as far as I've seen, reports say he might be a SmackDown exclusive.
There was one QR code that took you to JLN or something like that, and you ascribed the letters, their number, according to their place in the alphabet, and that was 10, 14, 22, pointing at Friday.
Oh, interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So there's definitely, like, I will say, in terms of like character work, storytelling, and all that, it's like Bray Wyatt truly does have the whole world in his hands, because look at how invested he got people into this.
It came at the exact right time. The beginning of September, the wrestling world is on its head. You know what I mean? It's like CM Punk and the absolute, like, disintegration of AEW, right? It's like all hope is gone. And now we've got something we can be excited about again. Jack, it's going to happen. I'm calling it now. It's the Firefly Funhouse characters versus the Bloodline in War Game at Survivor Series.
Oh gosh, I could just imagine it now. To make it even crazier, it's not gonna be the people playing them. They're gonna just be dressed up as the characters, like they appeared on Extreme Rules.
That's what I'm definitely thinking. I'm going to be disappointed if it's anything else. Oh, and here, Jack, are the people behind the mask. It's everyone Roman's beat up to this point. It's Cena, it's Edge, it's Cesaro, it's Kevin Owens, and who could be the female? Sasha.
Or you could make it Alexa, because there is that one image of where Alexa was looking back at Roman as he was making his entrance.
This is it. Long-term storytelling at its finest.
Oh, man. And another thing, sir, it kind of strays from this, but, when we're on the prediction route, do you remember what our predictions were for the G1? Because that wrapped up.
The G1, I think I had it here. You said it was going to be Ospreay and Shingo, and I said it was going to be Kenta and Sonata.
How right we were. I only got one.
You get a 50%.
Yeah,
and mine was super fantasy bookie. Looking at that now, I'm like, golly, when in a million years was that going to happen? Except Jack, did you hear about the new title?
The television title?
Yeah, there's 16 names. I'm going to call it now. The final's going to be Kenta and Sonata.
Oh man, what do I want to select as the final? Wait, oh gosh, hold on. Let me double check what the bracket is, because I don't know if they actually could match up in the final, but it's so funny because I don't know if you heard, but when they announced the title, they were like, "Oh, we want to use it as an opportunity to give shine to the younger guys," and then you look at the bracket announced, and you're like,
Goto.
You see Kanemaru and Ishii in the tournament, and you're just like, Where are the younger people?
Toriano.
Oh man, okay, I found it. I got it. It's gonna be Zack Sabre Jr. versus Ren Narita, and it's gonna be Zack Sabre Jr.'s first singles title in New Japan.
His first singles title is gonna be this brand new phony baloney title they whipped up with free championship defenses on YouTube.
Yep, and then just to further make the takes, as we finish up this episode. Sir, what is your prediction for both the War Games matches to come at Survivor Series?
Okay, here we go. Let me get something to write this with. It's gonna be Bloodline versus. Okay, ready? Bloodline versus the Brutes. This is it. We're gonna run Sheamus's popularity, up a notch. We're gonna put him in there with them. Be a bad old time, and then I'm gonna say Damage Control versus Judgment Day. Sure. Who do you think it's gonna be?
I think the women's one. I'll say Bianca, Becky, Candice LeRae. Let's keep it at 3 versus Damage Control.
Got it.
And then for the men's, oh man, what do I want to pick for the men's? Judgment Day versus the Bloodline.
Whoa!
I don't care if it's heel versus heel. They're gonna do some wackiness.
Wackiness aplenty. I think we need one more gal on each side of the team. Can't be a 3-on-3 War Games, right? That's a lot of ring and a lot of room.
I'll throw in I got 2 names I'll throw in.
Okay.
On Bianca's side, Doudrop. On Damage Control side, Nikki Cross coming back with her, or not necessarily her old gimmick, but she ditches the almost a superhero and sides with Damage Control.
Nice. I want to change mine. When it comes to the girl, I want still Bloodline versus Brutes. But when it comes to the female match, I want Raw versus SmackDown.
And actually,
Team Bianca versus Team Ronda. How will they coexist, Jack?
I got a better one for the men's War Games than the one I picked. I got it. You ready?
Okay.
You ready to hear this?
Yeah.
It's going to be the Bloodline, Roman and the Usos, and any combination of either Sami Zayn or Solo Sikoa versus AJ Styles, Carl Anderson, Luke Gallows, and I'm trying to think who would be the 4th person they take in for the Bullet Club. Who could be their 4th guy to take on the Bloodline? Matt Riddle, because apparently he showed up on Raw calling out Roman for whatever reason.
Nice. I like that a lot more than than Judgment Day, because this gives you heel and face.
Yeah, I got you. They're gonna spotlight the new debut and throw AJ and the Bullet Club in there.
Excellent. We can book this stuff, Jack. Give us the book.
Oh man! But with the time remaining left, sir, thank you for joining for this episode.
Thank you for having me.
I believe the next time we see each other will be again at the beginning of November, correct? For the Saudi Arabia event, Crown Jewel.
That sounds good.
Let me just double check this. Crown Jewel 2022, I believe. Yes, November 5th, Saturday, another Saturday event. We will see each other in November to cover that, and then later again in that month to cover Survivor Series. But until then, as always, folks, thank you all for joining for another episode of Season 3 of the Rule 34 podcast. And as always, if it exists, we have an opinion on it. Thank you, and we will catch you on the next episode.